The next presenter we have Professor Ashish Saxena. It's a joint paper, Ashish Saxena and Professor Vijayalakshmi Saxena. And Professor Ashish Saxena is going to present a paper on interrogating caste, social exclusion and sanitation concern in India. Dr. Ashish Saxena.
Thank you, Chair, and the distinguished audience over here. I think I will not take much time because I already have consumed in the previous session, but I will just try to highlight certain issues which is going to be important with regard to understanding the issue of sanitation, and especially as the theme of the session has one dimension that is very critical and crucial for sociology, that is the notion of caste. And that's why I'm trying to see how caste has to be integrated through time. I think when we try to speak about the beginning of sociology, I think it has been said sometimes that caste is the bread and butter of sociology. And in that way, of course, I think can we escape caste is a million-dollar question, that can we think about sociology without caste? And that is how I try to start up my debate. I think the very first thing that comes in our mind is that when we have to speak about the caste or maybe any other phenomenon, I think the role of theory is important. The theory which basically helps us in giving us the sound footing. We all know that here we have many practitioners who are actually practicing good things and also are directly or indirectly linking many aspects of theories. But the point, of course, is that can these things be documented? Or in order to make these attempts not as something which is commonsensical, let us make it more disciplined. And in that way, there is a need for a theory, or jacketing these attempts into a specific theory is the need of the hour. And that is how I try to put it like this, that there is a need of disciplining of sanitation. And I think in the book also I try to present these debates, that how we can have the sociological interpretation of the various aspects of sanitation, which is going to be an important aspect when we have to actually respect sanitation, not in public, but also in the academia. So I think there should be a linkage. Definitely theory and practice goes together, so it will gel well. And it will give the idea of sanitation to the new heights. Now, if you try to see the journey of the caste with regard to the sociology proper, I think I may be excused that I will be trying to use the theories, the so-called thinkers which are into sociology proper. But I think that gives a right track to understand the notion of sanitation within that. The very first thing that really troubles me over here is that when I start my journey and when I try to see the Sulabh International, I think somewhere I am puzzled, or sometimes I try to see that it basically tries to unturn many things which are put up in sociology. Like, to begin with, if I start up with the features of caste given by Professor G.S. Ghure, he tried to speak about certain parameters, that these are the characteristics which make something to be caste. And what are those? You have the notion of endogamy, you have the notion of fixed occupation, you have the notion of restrictions with regard to the food habits. But here, if I try to see these things, then I try to find out that all these things have turned the other way around. Here, the cases says that there is no notion of fixed occupation. Also, we also have that restrictions of food habits, restrictions with regard to the public sphere, that has been totally changed. Now, if we try to speak about these things on one context in a theoretical framework, and on the other hand, we are trying to find out maybe the ladies of Albar, or maybe the people from the different places which are going to put up these whole notion of caste in a very different way. I think we try to see that the Sulabh International is basically trying to bombard these issues. And I think then my next problem will be that we have to have the unlearning of sociology. And we have to learn the sociology in a new way. And then if we really try to see into that context, that what we have to unlearn and what we have to learn again, and definitely it put us into the new debate of the postmodern. So basically it's a journey from classical to the contemporary to the postmodern. And I think the Sulabh International is very much into the so-called action sociology, along with that, of course, trying to revoke upon, or of course even trying to challenge upon the existing theories. Like we have Dumont's understanding about the caste in terms of purity and pollution, the pure and the impure. But where is the pure end now? The ladies are becoming Sharmas. So basically the Brahmins are, everybody is Brahmin, nobody is the lower caste. So virtually where is that other end which Dumont was trying to speak about? So that structural notion of caste which has been created by Dumont, I think that has to be abolished, or we have to unlearn those things as such. Similarly, if you try to see M.N. Srinivas' understanding about Sanskritization, or maybe the notion of the pollution, I think here again I am puzzled that when we try to speak about the Sanskritization, where the lower caste tries to imitate the behavior of the upper caste, and that has been done. But I think Professor Pathak has gone one step ahead. M.N. Srinivas says that, okay, this Sanskritization is not going to bring about the positional change. But what Professor Pathak is saying, he's saying that positional change has also come. So I think this is something which is also beyond Sanskritization as such. And that is the true essence of bringing about the transformation. That we are not simply talking about the so-called positional change, even the structural changes are also there. The lady from Alwar is being celebrated and accepted in the structural framework, in the structure of power, in the structure of recognition. So in that way, I think this structural notion has completely changed. So the Sanskritization is not simply something which is symbolic. Rather, it is instrumental in bringing about the changes. So the notion of Sanskritization has not to be seen in terms of a phenomenon. Rather, it is seen as a tool of transformation, which has to be not only practiced, but it has been realized. So it's not something which is hypothetical. Rather, it is something which is a reality. Then we try to move ahead, maybe in terms of trying to look into the other debates. Like when we try to speak about Dipanga Gupta's understanding about that, how he's trying to see that the understanding of the caste, which has to be seen in terms of the sort of semaphore symbols, which are part and parcel of our rituals. Then these things are also going to be disappeared in that sense as well, because those sort of rituals are not there, which are being practices through traditions and which have been semaphored into the practices as such. So now we are seeing that these symbols are different from what is being practiced. So in that sense, my point will be then what is the new definition of caste? So I think the biggest challenge that we have now, the sociologists or academicians over here, is that when Professor Pathak has put up these milestones, I think we have to redefine what is caste. And that really is putting me into deep trouble. And I may not be the competent person to give a definition of caste, because everybody is in the upper caste. But anyway, I think somewhere we have to land to some finality in that sense as such. And I think we try to see it further in terms of maybe what Professor Pathak has done is what Amritya Sen has tried to speak about. Using the capability approach, you try to make them into the capability. And capability is not simply empowering. Capability, of course, is putting others to work along with others. And that should be the compatibility which has to be done. The sort of mainstreaming which are to be done to these people so that their actual capability can be raised. And that capability will help them not only to come into the mainstream, but to go along with the co-members in that sense. And that is what capability is being visible through this Sulabh International. And apart from that, I think when we try to see that these things which have been talked about by many sociologists, people like Robert Delig, or maybe people like Andre Bethe, they says that these sort of challenges, or these sort of, what you can say, changes which has to come or which will come, it will lead to the new tussles, new contestations. But here I am finding that there is no contestation. There are no challenges. It has been accepted and it has been transformed in a very smooth manner. And I try to see it as what Jefferson said, it's a very silent revolution which took place and which really tried to transform the lives of the people. And in that way, we have to really see that these sort of changes, if they can be thought of in terms of certain cases, I think it has to be applied into the All India framework and a pan-Indian culture, so that we can have a better relationship in terms of harmony, the humanity, or maybe the sort of the bigger issue of social justice. And as we say that the notion of social justice which tries to bring about the sort of equality, and this equality was been thought of as something which is God-gifted. So the notion of justice, which has been talked about by the initial people like Aristotle, maybe by John Rawls to some extent as such, that trying to give certain edge to the people who are less privileged. And now we are speaking about that the less privileged has become equally competent as such. And the justice is not something which is to be given by the state. The justice is been given by the society. The justice is not, what you can say, a sort of a booty which lies with the government. Yeah, government is giving the people the right, and then the people are empowered. But here, the justice is coming from the society. So I think we need to unlearn many things which were part of our sociology discipline, and many new things, new chapters have to be unturned with regard to these special issues. Like when we try to see now in what direction the caste is moving, I think many new challenges are coming up. Like one thing which we try to see is that the caste is being seen in terms of, what you can say, especially when we try to see it from the lower caste perspective, then we try to say that, okay, there is a subaltern perspective which tries to speak about that, what you can say, the people's voice in that sense as such. So these subalterns are going to be the powerful tools, or rather they are going to be very powerful to bring about the transformation as such. So actually the subaltern who are being seen as that can the subaltern speaks are actually speaking. So the subaltern can speak is not speaking, they are into action. It's not simply the speaking or saying, rather they are into action in that sense as such. So we have to see that these subalterns are not the muted voices, rather these are the people who are with the action also. And apart from that, I think the things which are coming up with regard to the caste in terms of seeing it as a metaphor is no more a metaphor. These are the things which are very much contextual. These are the things which are very much concrete and visible in that sense as such. We also have the transformation of caste in terms of politics. Caste, how it is going to be seen in terms of politics. On the one hand, we try to see that there are associations which are coming up maybe from the different caste groups. Now, Brahmins are also having the caste associations. But on the contrary, if you try to see, we have the Dalit voice which tries to see it in terms of the caste association. So that caste politics is also coming up, and which is really trying to see the caste in a very different way in terms of not only challenging but also trying to hegemonizing upon what you can say their positions and their standpoints as such. And another important thing which we try to see also in the present context is caste in relation to the governance. Because now the governance also is trying to have certain representations. And it's not the question of representations, but also it is to be seen in terms of putting more edge to these peoples in that sense. So we have the caste in terms of representation, which has been visible in that sense. And apart from that, we also try to see caste fighting with the caste. That is, now we don't have the two polar opposite things like the upper and the lower caste fighting together, but now we are even speaking about the middle caste having their own tussles, the Yadavs versus Gurmis versus so and so in that sense as Jats and other things. So now we try to see that the people of the same layers are also fighting within themselves as such. So I think these are the new challenges which are coming up with regard to the understanding of the caste in the present scenario. And I think these are certain things which I just want to comment. So sorry for taking time. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ashish Saxena, for your joint paper. Husband and wife together, you have prepared a nice paper, sociology couple. You have highlighted, of course, mobility in caste and empowerment of subalterns, downtrodden, with Dr. Pathak's practical approaches and action sociology. Applying Srinivas' concept of sanitation, of course, originally Merton's reference group theory, and also Homo hierarchicus of Louis Dumont applied that theory also. Also, structural and positional changes in caste system, with of course special reference to sanitation systems in India. Thank you. Now